Okay, shalom, shalom, kwam yasha'Allah, kuhuloyim la YAHAWASHI H.I.M. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. And just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of YAHAWASHI to the best of their ability. And this is Hanan the Waf, just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. And I was reading in the book of Psalms, chapter 2, right? And that's a beautiful chapter when it comes straight down to who the Lord is really dealing with. Salakia. Because the world, or the so-called white man, which these are Edomites, they're not white, because they're pinkish and reddish in color, as you can see right here. This Trump and this president of Russia, those are both Edomites, right? So-called white man. Esau, Edom, the Idumeans in the Greek. So they have a couple of different names, biblically, but they move through the earth in front as if they're white people, when you can clearly see, like, the guy's shirt is white and he's nowhere near that color. That's a social construct that's made up. And that's one of the things that we like to touch on, for the new believers that come into this truth. So now, as I was reading through, let's go back to it, Psalms chapter 2, and running through some precepts on it, you know what I'm saying? But now, Psalms chapter, I'm going to start from verse 1 here, and I'm going to grab a precept that's going to show you, who the Edomites were at the time when the Lord was walking the earth, because you had a Jewish king, but he wasn't actually an Israelite. He was actually a so-called white person that pretty much overall he had some tint, where he could have, looked like a darker skinned person because of his mother. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you get people like, Tracy Ellis Ross, Jussie Smollett, the Maury twins. Those are all Edomites. They look like so-called black people. And some there are so-called white people out here that's way darker than shit. They dark as Wesley Snipes. So it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual DNA thing. It's not it's a DNA thing right off the jump. Because if you come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you are an Israelite. If you come from Abraham, Isaac, and Esau, then you are an Edomite. And color has absolutely nothing to do with anything, because our people look like, so-called Chinese people, so-called Japanese people, Cambodians, Filipinos, you name it, because we've been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. But the seed line goes through your father. Let me prove that real quick, and we'll come back. Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. This is how we know what a pedigree is. This is how we know your family lineage goes through your father right here. Numbers 1 and 18. Put a little highlight on this thing. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families. See that word pedigree, it goes off into your family ancestry. After their, Salakia. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So your seed line goes through your father. And this was well known in the ancient days. Some Eastern countries, they still keep that they understand it. It's just here in the Americas, the so-called white man, he's a damn fugitive in the earth trying to hide who he really is. So, he comes up with all these different, names. They're Russians, they're Germans, they're Italians, they're Polish. But actually in reality, they're just a bunch of goddamn Edomites, So let's go back so we can set this up real quick. Little lesson, you know what I'm saying? It was just something that I kind of was just, some back to the basics that our people need to know when you come into this truth, right? So it says, Psalms 2 and 1. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing, right? So that's going off into these Gentile state of mind, or no, these Gentiles, the real heathen, the real Gentiles, these other nations. And also, you know what I'm saying, we had, of course, our people that didn't want to lose their positions in the New Testament, That was really the reason why they was coming up against YAHAWASHI, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus. The Israelites, they were coming up against him because they just loved living like Romans, man. They didn't mind, they was getting money. Just like today, the average so-called NBA player or NFL player, so-called black person, they don't want nothing to do with being an Israelite, because that would take away from their status. They like their status. They like having being able to sign autographs and take pictures and, you know, hop out of the, you know, the dopest car, you know, live in the, you know, these gated communities. They love that shit. They don't want that, you know, they don't want anything to do with that being taken away from them. And that's pretty much, you know, what was going on with a lot of the Israelites when Yahawashi walked the earth. And it's documented, right? Verse 2, it says, the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Now, who are they talking? Who are these kings? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us, right? So let's read that in the NLT right here. The New Living Translation. The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord and against his anointed one, which is the, you know, they're plotting against the Father, Yahweh. That's the true name of the Father, which means he exists or the existing one. And they're plotting against his son, the Savior of the Israelites, YAHAWASHI, which the world ultimately calls Jesus. His name is YAHAWASHI, which means that he's the Savior or deliverer in the Paleo Hebrew. And so all these nations, they're going to come up against the Lord. They don't like the Lord. But they running around with these churches set up, these big ass cathedrals in all these continents and countries, and you know, they done, you know, whitewashed all the images, you know what I'm saying, and gave you white Jesus, acting as if they're the righteous in the world, but actually they are the enemies of the Lord. Because the Lord would be a so-called black man if he was walking the earth. You know, when he walked the earth, he was a so-called Negro. But now, what I wanted to get into was Herod. And basically, you know, it's a few Herods, you know what I'm saying? So let's jump into it real quick. Let's get go to Mark chapter 3 and verse 6 off that precept. Because this is really where I want to just, you know, lead the lesson by the Spirit. You know, we'll just move in the Spirit. So now, you know, I was kind of reading and, you know, I was just going through some precepts. Now, verse 6 right here, right? That's a precept from verse 2 of Psalms 2 and 2. The kings of the earth, you know, set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. So these nations, these kings, they're going to come up, and they've always done that. You know, you can get that account in Psalms 83. Matter of fact, let me shoot back to Psalms 83 real quick, just to show that the Lord does have enemies. Because you have the Christian church have you think that the Lord loves everybody and everybody loves the Lord, and that's just not true. Psalms 83. Let me just jump to the point. Oh, well, let me just start from the top. Verse 1. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. See? In the NLT it says, O God, do not be silent. Do not be deaf. Do not be quiet, O God. Don't you hear the uproar of your enemies? Don't you see that your arrogant enemies are rising up? Verse 3, it says, they devise crafty schemes against your people. They conspire against your precious ones. And those are the Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is all these nations. It says, come, say they, let us wipe out Israel as a nation. We will destroy the very memory of its existence. Yes, this was their unanimous decision, because it says that they became confederate. This was their unanimous decision. They signed a treaty as allies against you. And then it starts to name off the nations. These Edomites, right? Top name on the list as far as the Lord's enemies is the so-called white race. These Edomites and Ishmaelites. Those are your Arabs, you know. You got your Moabites. Those are your so-called Chinese. So on and so forth. So all these nations, it's a list of these nations, you know, that hate the Lord and they hate the children of Israel. If you ever notice, why do these people be looking at you like you just a piece of shit every time you go somewhere? You walk into their stores, they eyeballing you. They looking at cameras trying to see if you're going to pick some shit up and take some shit. You know. They don't clean the parking lots. You know, they just treat you like shit no matter where you go. That's all these nations. Because what? All these nations are in our neighborhoods. They're the ones that got the businesses. You can live in a city, all so-called all black, so to speak. 98% so-called black people. and all the fucking businesses will be ran by all these other nations. Chinese people will have a damn Chinese food spot, damn beauty supply store and shit. Esau, he got the McDonald's, the Burger Kings, and the fucking, you know, whatever restaurants and little shit like that. Your big block stores and shit, and then you'll have the damn Arabs. They, you know, they all over you with, you know, mechanic shops. They own, you know, oil changing spots and damn gas stations and little shit like that. And then of course you got Esau, the so-called white man. He got the banks. All these nations, you got Japanese people in the damn hood selling you sushi and shit. All these nations can come and set up shop in our neighborhoods and sell us whatever the fuck they want to sell us, but we can't go to their neighborhoods and set up shop and have a store. And we won't even have a store in our own shit. You might see a little barbershop here or there, a little nail shop, a little salon, a little bullshit like that. You know what I'm saying? Jake, you know, you might see Jake with a food truck, you know, some shit like that, you know. Not saying Jake don't have nothing, but we don't have what they have. You can't walk into no black bank, you know, so to speak, and be like, yeah, let me, you know, I'm cashing my, you know, I'm trying to make a deposit or I'm trying to withdraw something. Nah, man, you going to them. But anyway, these are the enemies of the Lord. So now let's go back to this Mark chapter 3 real quick. In verse 6, it says, and the Pharisees went forth. And this is Israelites too, because Israelites, you know, like I said, they don't want to lose their positions. Our people don't want to lose their little positions in these wicked ass countries, because it gives them the ability to be wicked. Because Jake just, you know, they carnal as hell, man. They you know, they get up and play every damn day. But it says, and the Pharisees went forth and straightway took counsel with the Herodians. So our people got with the damn enemy against him, how they might destroy him. This is who they talking about. They talking about the Lord, YAHAWASHI, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus, right? So now when I went into this word Herodians, right? That's why, you know, the apostle will always say, hey, get that blue letter Bible, man, because this blue letter Bible is the truth when it comes to looking up words in Greek, looking up words in the Hebrew, you know. But let's get this the Herodians, right? Let's see who the Herodians are. G2265. Because see, people will read this, and a average Christian, they'll think that these are just all Israelites. They were all Jews, you know. But all of a sudden, you know, the Lord, he loves everybody, though. You know, he didn't included all these nations, you know. But this guy right here, he was over the Jews, but he wasn't actually a Jew himself. He was a damn Edomite, man. Okay, so you go up into Herodians, Herod's partisans, right? Then they go to you know, you have the plural of the derivative, G2264, and let's go into it. And then it gives you his name, Herod, supposedly meaning heroic. And check it out, it gives you the whole list of his family. Look, it gives you his fathers, his grandfather, and all that shit right here, the whole history. It says a name of the royal family that flourished among the Jews in the times of Christ, which we know that's the Lord YAHAWASHI Mashiach, and the apostles. Herod the Great was the son of Antipater of Idumea. What was the Idumeans? Idumea, that's another name, that's another word for a damn Edomite in the Greek. See? Appointed king of Judea. See, he was appointed king of Judea. He wasn't a real, you know, king over the Israelites, because the, you know, the Israelites, you know, were, you know, voting in a new king, so to speak, or, you know, running up on somebody and saying, you know, someone of their own people. Because what does the scripture says about setting a king? You're not supposed to set someone up over you that's not one of your brethren. That's part of the law. The Lord said that. You know, you that's the reason why we don't vote, right? So it says he was appointed king of Judea, BC 40, by the Roman Senate, see? At the suggestion of Antony, and with the consent of Octavian, he at length overcame the great opposition which the country made to him, and took possession of the kingdom BC 37. And after the battle of Antietam, he was confirmed by Octavian. That's where you get a lot of these months from. You know, October is named after this guy, whose favor he ever enjoyed. He was brave and skilled in war, learned and sagacious, but also extremely suspicious and cruel. Hence, he destroyed the entire royal family of the Hasmoneans, right? Put to death many of the Jews that opposed his government, and proceeded to kill even his dearly beloved wife Miriam of the Hasmonean line, and his 2 sons she had borne him. So this is your legacy of the so-called white race, man, right here, man. They've been doing this shit for a long time. They don't mind killing their own, man. So they don't mind killing you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. It says, okay, he went on to collect taxes and done a bunch of weird shit, bunch of dirty shit. But as you go on, like I said, you can see, his legacy carries on, because you'll hear about 2 Herods in the scriptures. The first one was the one that tried to kill little baby Jesus, remember? All the little he put out that decree to kill off all the 2-year-olds, the babies up to 2 years old, as far as like the Israelites, because he was trying to kill little baby Jesus. You had that one. And then you had this other one that came along, the son. He was the one that tried to kill John, or did kill John the Baptist by beheading him. So when you go through to see their history is here. See? Herod, surname Antipas. Then you have Herod Agrippa I. Then you have Herod Agrippa II. See? And it gives you that history. So that's why it's so good to have this blue letter. You can go up in here and you can pull up on some of this history. So now what I did was I went to his name. So I just put in was Herod the Great, an Edomite. And your good old AI says, yes, Herod the Great was of Edomite descent. See? Herod's father, Anticipator, was an Edomite, a Semitic people, yeah, because they're Semitic too. See, when those people get to talk, and it's not Semitic, it's Shemitic, with an H, Shem, not Sim. Because they be running around talking about this anti-Semitic bullshit, but, it's, I think if I'm not mistaken, Shem had 8 sons. It's like 8 nations that come out of Shem. We're Shemitic, and so-called white people are Shemitic. It's a few nations that's Shemitic. Chinese, but they make it seem as if, that they're the only, and then you ask them like, well, how many sons did Shem have? Because Shem's sons became nations, but they won't tell you any of that. They want you to think that they're the only people. And it's going to also tell you about how they were converted. They're not, those people that's in Israel right now, those are not the real Israelites. Those people are converts to our religion through our forefather, John Hyrcanus, right? I know it's a lot of information, but you can look these things up, man. But I wanted to pull this. Okay, and it says he was born in southern Palestine. His mother, Cyprus, was a Nabatean princess from Petra. See? Now, so when you go to his wife, let's get now, because this is why you got to Google some of this stuff. So I Googled his wife. Oh, it's a lot. Let me go back. I Googled his wife, right? Was Herod the Great's wife an Edomite? No. Herod the Great's wife, Miriam, was not an Edomite. Right? Herod was of Arab origin. Though he practiced Judaism, his father, Anticipator, was an Edomite. So let me see here. Now I Googled something else. Let me see here, Salakia. Because it talks about how his wife was Hyrcanus II. So let me go back real quick. Because it says that she wasn't an Edomite, right? She wasn't Lucky, I was trying to. Oh, right here. Here it is. She's the granddaughter of Hyrcanus II and niece of Antigonus. Right? So who's Hyrcanus II? That's what I put in on that one. So let's go back. We're going to see. That's why you got to just do a little search, right? So I put in was Hyrcanus II an Edomite? No, Hyrcanus II was a member of the Hasmonean dynasty and was not an Edomite. Remember, this guy, he killed off his Hasmonean wife. He killed off his supposedly Hasmonean 2 sons, right? So now let's go back. So we know he wasn't an Edomite. So now this, I asked, was Hyrcanus II an Israelite? Yes, John Hyrcanus II was an Israelite and a member of the Hasmonean dynasty. And the reason why I done that was because Herod married his granddaughter, which was an Israelite. She was an Israelite, but he was an Edomite. And that's where you get some of those colors where, like I said, you'll have people like Lenny Kravitz. He's a damn Edomite, but he looks like a Negro. Your Jussie Smollett, or it's a lot of people out here that look like they're so-called black people, but they're actually so-called white people, or better yet, Edomites. Because that color shit is what is very confusing to a lot of people. There's no such thing as white people. There's no such thing as black people. Those are social constructs. We all have a biblical nationality. And so when I seen that, I was like, well, let me just do a quick little lesson on it. It might be helpful to somebody that may need some more understanding on the fact that Herod, at the time, he was over, the children of Israel, but he wasn't actually a real Jew. You know what I'm saying? And remember, he married his brother's wife, Philip. That's why John the Baptist was thrown into jail. He threw John the Baptist into jail. And, eventually, of course, John the Baptist got beheaded because, supposedly his brother's wife's daughter, which would have been his niece, I'm assuming there, gotta be on that tip, just filthy and nasty. She dancing for him at a party, and he offered her up to half his kingdom, you know what I'm saying, for her great performance. Ain't no telling what she was doing. Probably was up on the table with her box in nigga's face, whatever the case may be. But she went back and told her mother, and her mother was so pissed with John the Baptist about that relationship that she told her to ask for John the Baptist's head. So that's how John the Baptist ended up getting beheaded. So that's that history, man. And it's a lot more to it, you know what I'm saying? But you do have the history of the father. He was the one that wanted to kill off little so-called baby Jesus. And then you had the son come along, after he had died. I think after he died, I think he was like 70 years old or so. But anyway, his son comes along, and they just passed on the torch, you know what I'm saying, as far as like ruler to ruler, because they weren't allowing no Israelites to actually be rulers over themselves. But those priests, high priests, the Pharisees and, men of that, stature, they just wanted to keep their positions. The Israelites, they knew who they were. They were able to keep their customs, still speak their language, eat their foods, and keep their dietary laws and all that other stuff. A lot of shit wasn't forced on them. They was just tributaries. They was just, they paid their taxes, and they pretty much lived by Roman rule. Because even when they was trying to crucify the Lord, they had to have the Romans do it. Because the Romans were the ones that were in charge and had the power to actually do it, so to speak. Or they could have, rather, because they did set him up to try and, they was pretty pissed at the Lord, man. But they was pretty much overall, they was pissed about not losing their positions in that society because they was doing good. It wasn't no different than so-called black people living in America. That's your damn Oprahs, your Jordans, your little local person that just might be making 100, 200 grand, 50 grand. They might be living, all right, driving a nice little whip. They didn't want that to be tampered with. Like, man, because they actually said it. It was like, man, he's gonna, basically fuck up our thing that we got going on, man. We got to get rid of this guy. So, but anyway, I just wanted to touch on that real quick, man. So, if you need a precept to go into that Mark 3 and 6, and just pull up those Herodians and go off into that word Herodian, man, I could have went back a little further into it, but you can clearly see it tells you that he was an Idumean. They're not going to straightforward tell you, because that's the Greek word for an Edomite. They're not going to straightforward tell you that he's an Edomite. That word Idumean, matter of fact, I didn't even do that, but let's do that real quick. I'm just going to put in, does Idumea it's like him spelling shit wrong. Let me put it in this way. Does Idumean mean Edomite? That's why I should have put an Idumean as a people instead of the landmass. Yeah, this was the Josephus on the Edomites' origin and relation with the Judeans. Let me go into this though. This is the Wikipedia for Edom. Wikipedia, or they want you to Wikipedia trying to get a donation. Edom, Edomites, Hebrew. Okay, it says it was an ancient kingdom that stretched across areas in the south, present-day Jordan and Israel. Edom and the Edomites appear in several written sources related to the late Bronze Age and the Iron Age in the Levant, including the list of Egyptian pharaoh settings. Okay, yeah, I hate when they do that. They don't just put the information all together. See right here. And that's actually in the Blue Letter Bible. That's crazy. It says Edom, Idumea, or Idumea. The name Edom was given to Esau, the firstborn son of Isaac and twin brother of Jacob, when he sold his birthright to the latter for a meal of lentil pottage. The country which the Lord subsequently gave Esau was hence called the country of Edom, and his descendants were called Edomites. Edom was called Mount Seir, and Idumea also. See, there you have it. Edom was wholly mountainous country. It embraced narrow mountainous tracts extending along the. Okay, well, you get the point. I just wanted to just prove the point that that word Idumea or Idumeans, you know what I'm saying? That's going off into an Edomite as well. So just wanted to just pull that up, man. I found it to be interesting because you get a lot of more information these days. That little AI trying to pick up on certain things, you know what I'm saying, and you can get a little bit more information as opposed to years back, where it's kind of like right there for you. All you got to do is Google or ask a quick question, man, and you should be able to get what you need. You got to filter some stuff though, because everything is being said is not what it is, but overall you can clearly see that the Lord has enemies. These people are the Lord's enemies, and the Lord is going to come and demolish these people, man. He's not dealing with these other nations. He's coming to get the children of Israel out of the hands of our enemies. That was his purpose when he came all along. That's all they was preaching to. All these books that's in the Bible, when you see the book of Corinth, 2 Corinthians, they were going to Hebrew Israelites and speaking to those people in those Hebrew Israelites that were stationed there. Those were letters, man. They wasn't running around trying to, save Pontius Pilate and Herod and them, man. You would not see that in the scriptures. The missions that Paul, Peter, the 12 disciples or apostles was going on, they were strictly going on trips to these places where the Israelites were scattered to. That's why when you go to James chapter 1, you can probably end out there, y'all, about this album. When you go into James chapter 1, right? And most of these books start off like this. They give you a greeting. It says, James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord YAHAWASHI COME, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greetings. He was everywhere that they went. It was to the 12 tribes. Because mainly it was Southern Kingdom there, but there were scatterings of the the Northern Kingdom was there as well. It was parts of the tribes that stuck around. All the tribes didn't come. Every single person of all the tribes didn't come here to the Americas. I'll put it that way. You might have had 20 people over here that was from Asher, 30 people over here from Zebulon, so on and so forth. So anyway, that's another lesson. But the letters that was being written by Paul and Peter and these were letters that was going out to Israelites that were in these regions, man. This book is not for heathen, man. The Lord is not coming back to share his kingdom with the enemies that we named off in Psalms chapter 83. Those people are going into captivity, man. So with that, pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Yashala and the Bible Ball.